By special viewer request today, how to make a junk journal out of an old book. Hello there. One of my viewers watched the video that I have about this junk journal, and she asked how I actually made the actual journal. Not all the shenanigans inside, but just actually making the journal. And so I told her that I would create a video showing her how I went from something like this to something like this. So to start, you need a book that you like. I liked this one because I thought this cover was just cool for a journal. On to Adventure. I thought that would be, I mean, it just screams journal. And this is an old, it's an old textbook. The pages in here are actually in really good shape. There's quite a few pages in here that I think I'm going to want to keep and use in the future. Ooh, look at those roses. Where did those go? Sorry, it's a squirrel. I'm getting distracted. There. I just want to look at that because I'm in the middle of doing something that's those colors. That's really pretty. I need a... Where's a Post-it when you need a Post-it? I don't have one. Okay. So, as a collector of textbooks, as a school teacher, oftentimes when I find them, they just go straight to my collection and I don't break them apart and turn them into journals. But this one is such a cool cover, and I think it would be such a fun journal that I'm going to break down and go ahead and do it. So to do this, all you need to get started is your book, a good X-Acto knife, and then a step that I'm going to show you that really isn't that necessary, but I'm going to do, well, actually though, I really like this. So I might not, this book is in good shape. If a book is really falling apart, I will do a coat of medium, acrylic medium, and just some junk paper to kind of reinforce it and make it work a little better. But come to think of it, this one is in really good shape, so I might not. All right, so the first step is to take apart the book. All right, let me remember. Page 292 is what I want. 292, don't forget, 292. So if you look inside at the binding, you'll see that the book is not actually stuck to the cover. They have glued this sheet of paper. This is glued onto the back cover, and then this is glued onto the front cover. And these are generally the first couple pages in the signature. That's where they get those from. So to take it apart, all you need to do is open it so that you have this gap, and then grab your X-Acto knife. Now be careful, because I've done this where I'm not paying attention, and next thing I know I cut off the spine of the journal or of the book. But you're just going to go in this part here, and this one is got some stitching, extra stitching. You're just gonna slowly, carefully start separating that. All right. So there's one. Okay. So now we've got that. Now the next step is you need to look at the strength of your spine. Like I said, this one is in pretty good shape. Usually they're not. At the very least, what I would typically do is run some book tape or some medical tape right here to reinforce that. But I do not have any medical tape on me right now. So instead, I'm going to do that with some fabric. I'm not going to choose anything real fancy because I may end up covering this. I actually probably won't because I really like all the people signed out their book. So I need to reinforce the spine so that if it does come apart, it will be together. And that looks pretty good right there. So tear that apart. Now I think I am going to put a layer of book pages down here to reinforce it a little more. And I might as well take a page out of here. Oh, here's a loose one. I don't want to destroy the signatures. And then if you ever do take these apart, these couple pages that are in the front and back of the book, they're nice and thick. These make really good journal cards, so save those. Put the material on top. So just some acrylic medium, any brand works. Golden is actually my favorite, but whatever is on sale, that's what I buy. And this is really thick. You can even water this down a little bit if you wanted to. And I'm going to go ahead and while I'm at it, I'm going to just do a little repair here, stick some of those down. Make sure I get it all the way up, all the way in the crevices. And in this stage, I do a good amount. Come here. Because this is the bottom layer, and so I want to make sure that it is going to be sturdy. I'm also not worrying on this very, very bottom about neatness too much. Right now I just want to get a nice good layer on here. And I'm going to stick this guy on. Try and line it up nice and neat. Just make sure I get really good contact. over my hands. I am the sloppiest worker. Like I've got something orange from yesterday. That Tim Holtz mica spray. I was even so careful not to spray it in all over the place. I used a box and everything, and I still got it all over me. Okay, so there's that layer. And then I'm going to go and put another nice thick layer on here. I know it's not going to show, so I'm going to wipe that away a little bit. And this doesn't have to be perfect because it is going to be covered with fabric, and ultimately it's going to be covered with signatures also. So this is more just to reinforce. And then I'm going to put a final coat over this because it will kind of seal it and reinforce it a little bit more and make it a little stronger. Let's plug up my holes that I have. A little raspy. And then all I'm doing here is just kind of smoothing out the brush marks a little bit. Although, like I said, it's not going to show, so I guess I don't need to do that step. The other edges, oh, looks pretty good. Okay, now whenever you use matte medium, it is really important that you let it dry really well. You can tell when it's dry by touch. When you touch the paper or whatever that you've used, if it's not dry, it feels kind of cold. When it is dry, it feels nice and warm, like a warm room temperature. While that dries, the next part is the signatures. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out how many signatures go in here. When I did this one, I did 2 signatures and I packed them full. And it's still pretty bursting. And this is about the same size. So let's count. Whew, did you see the dust when I opened that? Let's count the pages in the signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Boy, this is a fat signature. 32. So this was 16 pages in that signature. This one looks like it might even have been more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 'Oh no, I glued that one on. So 10, that wasn't part of one. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Huh, that one was even less. Okay. Okay. So first thing you're going to do, most of this signature is going to be coffee dyed paper. So let's just grab some of those. 1, 2, I'll make 2 signatures. And then I grabbed just random papers. This is with, look at the color of this. It's so cool. I did this. This is like I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but it's kind of a gray, a bluish gray. I did this with Cabernet wine. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So that would be 13 each. When I was building my stash of vintage books and paper, I bought a lot of, if I can find it, Greg Shorthand. You can find these books. They're all over the place. They're very inexpensive. You can get them on eBay. You can get them on Aid Books, Powell's Books. So this was the kind of the first cool page that I added to my stash when I was starting out. And this book here, this one is almost done. Ooh, that's a neat one. I need to go into my, oh, there's one, and there's one. So this is a really good stash builder, and one Greg Shorthand book lasts a very long time because you only put a couple of those in each journal. Found this at a yard sale. It was supposed to be some kind of homeowner's inventory for insurance purposes. And I bet whoever owned this looked at this and was going, there's no way I'm filling that out. Forget it. Yeah, my complete household inventory. Got it for $1. Okay, so there. Now I've got some small pages too. Step is to figure out how big my pages need to be. So to do that, I am going to find where one signature ends. I'm going to find where it's sewn in and just slice those threads. You don't want to rip it out because then you will end up ripping the part of the page where you sew in your signatures and it will just fall apart. Okay. In the middle. Okay, so we're going to put a couple of these pages in too, so that the page has some of its original, or the journal has some of its original pages. And we're going to also use this. Ooh, onto adventure. I need to include that. Okay, so I'll do that one. I don't like any of these. Save those for another day. Let's grab another signature here. Okay, so this is the size that I need my pages to be if I want them to fit perfectly in that book. So they are going to be 11 by 11 by 7 15/16. Yeah, I'm not measuring to 15/16. So the next step is going to be to trim all the pages. It is a big pain. You have to do this after you get your signatures in. It is okay if the paper is a little smaller, but you don't want it to be larger. Okay, and then I need to trim about 1 inch off this as well. I like that part, so I'm going to trim this side. Now this piece I will save, put that in my scrap pile. That's a really good piece to use for an edge. You can make paper ruffles out of it. This is a good piece. The bad thing about this paper here, this comes from a reproduction of the Sears Roebuck catalog, and it's made to go like this, but look at how this is going to be. It's going to be upside down, so I'll need to glue something on the back of whichever side I don't want. Probably one of the coffee dyed pieces of paper. I'm going to just chop this off, so I'll have a pocket on each side. I'm going to take these 2 pages, put these together. And I'm going to glue these on here so that I don't end up with an upside down page. Now we're going to put together the signatures, and I start by folding every single page one at a time, just to make sure that I get a nice clean fold. Now here where it was originally folded, there's a couple things I could do. I could refold it, or I could leave it like this and trim the edge so there's a smaller page, or I could fold one page over and have it be like a tuck spot. But I think I'm going to trim these. So now I'm going to make two piles. So put all of your fun stuff in each pile. All right. Then I want to go through my coffee guide pages and put all the similar colors together. So got kind of white splotchies, and there's sort of a dark one. It's really, oh, and there's a dark one. Okay, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Next, I'm going to start by putting all of the coffee dyed papers together first. One, two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that works out nicely. Okay, so we'll go 1, now see, if I was doing a regular journal, I would divide this into smaller signatures, but this is going to be a nice thick 2-signature art journal, so we're going to keep it just like this. Okay, so that signature is done. Now I'm going to put together this one. Okay, so now the signatures are made. Now the next part is to sew the signatures. So there's two ways to do this. You could sew it directly onto the book if you like a visible binding. You would just put two holes, and then sew them in there. You could grab a piece of cardboard, which is what I usually do, and have a hidden binding. So then you'll measure and sew the two onto that, and then you glue that onto here. If you want this to look pretty, you would cover it with lace or something first and then put it on there. But I'm thinking, since this is an art journal, I want these signatures to be able to be taken out so that you can work with them flat and then put them back in. I didn't do that in my journal that we're copying. I wish I would have, because in journals after that, I've made art journals, I've made removable bindings, and it's much easier. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. And this isn't quite dry yet. So since these are going to be removable bindings, I can just sew these two journals together and not have to worry about anything. Now there's a couple ways to do this. I could just sew it on a machine, or I could sew the actual journals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a simple binding. Because I've folded each page in half, if I'm very careful and I lay it flat, this is going to line up perfectly. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line it up and clamp it down so that it doesn't go anywhere. And there's lots of ways that you could measure where you put your holes. You can get this fancy tool. It's like $8 and it comes apart, and then you do it however you want. This is probably what I'm going to use. You can get one of these. This is a center ruler, so it has 0 in the middle. So I would find where the exact center is, and then I would just mark where I want my holes. You could do it that way. Or some people like to just take a strip of cardboard or paper, they fold it in half to find the exact center, and then they measure and put their holes, and they use this as a template in the future whenever they have. So like this is an example of one. Whenever I want a 1 1/4 inch hidden spine, I can use this template over and over and over again. Okay. But I am actually going to use this. This thing is pretty cool. It's very, very sharp. So I'm just going to mark my center before I do anything. There's my 0. Okay, so my center is right there. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna do it like this. Not even worry about the fancy tools. Again, if you don't have any tools, you don't need them. A nail and a hammer is all you need. Okay. So my paper isn't, or my pencil isn't quite on the line, but I can see where I want to be. Make sure one more time that everything's lined up nice. So I'm going to go right here. And right here. And right here. Okay. Then you decide, do you want it to tie in the middle or on the center, or do you want it to tie in the back? If I'm doing a hidden spine, I'll have the bow tie in the back, so I will start in the back. I'm not doing a hidden spine, so I want the bow to be part of my design, so I'm going to start in the middle and go out. So I'm just going to grab my string. This isn't anything fancy. You can use waxed string, you can use actual string, you can use embroidery floss. This comes from the dollar store. I mean, you can use whatever you have. That's the point of junk journals. And then I have a very wide, I can't get you to see the hole in the, there you go. It's a very wide holed needle, which makes it nice, especially when you're using thread like this that comes from the dollar store. It's not the greatest quality, and so it's going to fray a little bit going through. It's nice if you have a big hole. All right, so this is the easy part. I'm going to start in the middle and go down and leave a tail. And I'm going to come up. And I'm going to go back in the middle, being careful not to split the thread. And then I'm going to come back up from the other side. And to make this easy to tie, first I make sure that my thread is nice and tight. You don't want loose threads. To make it easy to tie and stay tight, I'll just slide my needle under that thread, tighten it again, and then that's where I will tie my bow. And if I was doing a hidden spine, all I would have done was had this here, and as I go, I would come through these holes. And so then this would be attached to this when I was done, and I would put glue here and glue that into my journal. All right, so that one's done. I'm not going to tie a bow, I'm going to leave it in a knot. Now you can leave it long if you want to put beads on and have beads dangle and have it be like a bookmark. It's not quite long enough for that, but it would be long enough to put some beads down here and have it dangle a little bit. This one's not really long enough to do that, but I think I'll leave that just in case. I might decide I want it later. But this one is, I'm going to trim this one. This one doesn't need to be long. Okay. So there's one signature. Close that one. Okay. So, and now I've got my 2 signatures. I've got an extra bead on the bottom, or an extra string on the bottom, a string on the top, so I could have those dangle. And then we're going to put them in here with elastic so that these are removable, and it's going to look like this when it's done. So now I will show you how to do the elastic part. Now before I do that, I want to make sure that this is going to be sturdy enough. And since it is going to be an art journal, I want it to be very strong. So I think I am going to go ahead and glue this in. Now, do I want to do it with fabric glue? I think I do. Just don't do it with a glue stick, this particular thing. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting a nice bead of fabric glue along the weak parts here, where it's likely to rip, and then add some here. Now usually you wouldn't be using this much, but because we want it to be very secure, we are going to go ahead and do that and smooth it out so that we don't have too many bumps. And get this where we want it, right there. Okay. And then I will go ahead and glue this down also. There's that. Other side. This is the strongest smelling glue. When I've been in working with this fabric glue all day, my husband comes in here, woo, are you happy? Because of the fumes. All right, so there that is. Now that is going to make that much more secure. Now I'm going to figure out where I want my holes to go. So I need to start by, I'm going to grab some paper and make myself a template. Okay. Sorry, I don't know if I went off camera there. I've got my paper. Just make sure it fits in there. It doesn't have to be super exact. Okay, now I'm going to make it about exactly, it just said it doesn't have to be exact, and then I say, but no, I'm going to make it exactly the size. Okay, now I'm going to fold it in half. And I want to make sure that this is nice and straight. Okay. Let's double check. Okay. Now I'm going to point to the top. And my signatures are pretty big. So my holes, I do not want, because I'm going to do elastic, I do not want my holes to go down too far, because it will really stretch unless I cut into my signatures. And I think, okay, so fold it. Now to find the center, I'm going to fold it in half this way. Okay. And then I need to put my holes in the center of that. So I will fold it again to where it goes right to the center line. And I'm only worrying about the top because I'm going to just fold it over and do the top and bottom at the same time. So now fold this one over. Okay. All right, so now those two folds, that's where I'm going to put my holes. Let's go right here and right here. Okay, so now I'll fold this over. And those signatures are far enough apart where they have lots of room to grow. Okay, I'm going to just punch those in. Make sure they look nice and straight. Yep, they look good enough. Good enough on the bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna, this part is a little bit of a process. So make sure it's where I want it. I am going to make this bigger with my crocodile, but right now I just want to make sure I get it started. Okay. Now the other thing that you need to do is you need to figure out if you want a dealie like this to hang stuff on. Which I do. However, the way that I am going to insert the elastic, I will be able to just hook something onto the elastic itself. So I'm probably not going to put that in there. If I wanted to hang a little something from the center, however, now would be the time to put that in. But I'm going to just hang it off the elastic. Okay. So the next part is going to be grommets. And I need to decide if I want big holes or little holes. And I want little holes. Although is this, yeah, it's thin enough. I should be able to do small ones. Okay. My crocodile. Now these, I always mess up. I could never do this right. Ever. Ever. My grommet always ends up looking messed up, and I hate it. Okay, I think I might do some green. That just kind of hides it, and I never really use these colored ones. So this will give me a chance. You're going to need 4. 2 for the top and 2 for the bottom. Okay. So I've got those. Now I'm going to punch my holes. I want my little one. There it is. Okay. Wish me luck. Now, if you don't have grommets, you can just punch the holes in here and run the elastic through. You know, it's the thing about junk journals is you make do with what you have. And there. This one. And this one. Okay. Now it is ready for the elastic. And then we will put the signatures in. We are minutes away from being done. Okay. So this is 1/8 inch elastic cording. During COVID times, you couldn't find this anywhere. 2 signatures. So I'm going to go up And then I need room to tie. Okay. 1, 2, and then a little bit to tie. But it doesn't need to be very much because this is going to stretch. All right, so the only part out here that this is going to show is right across here and here. So what I'm going to do is run those through. Okay. And then this one is going to go through and through. Okay, so I've got one here and then this, and if you turn it over, the only place you can see the elastic is here. This is where I said you'll be able to dangle charms from. You can dangle it right there. And if you really don't like that, you can cover that up with lace or whatever. Okay, now you don't want this super tight because you don't want to put a lot of pressure on these grommets, but you don't want it really loose either. So that looks pretty good right there. And then here, is that going to be tight enough? Yeah. And these, just do a, the way I just do the balloon knot. That's all I do. Now see, that's pretty loose. Let's see how that goes. Are you ready? This is the exciting part. Open to the middle and stick it in there. And this one, open to the middle. Stick it in there. I guess that is pretty good. Oh, good enough. Okay, and then I'm going to trim these. So now what you have is your art journal, but your signatures are removable. So you can slide it out, put it flat on a surface, work on whatever page you want, and then you can put it back in. So there you go. That is how you do it. And then if you want a little charm, I might even have one sitting around. Let's see here. Well, here's an earring, but it will just give you an idea. So if you want a charm, then you would just put it on your elastic and your charm would dangle from there. And that's that. Junk journal in less than 2 hours, and you can actually do it much faster if you're not talking and going slow. It'll probably actually only take you about an hour, if even that, because it is very simple. Once you get going, you're just and you're done, especially if you don't have to wait for your glue to dry or any of that. But see how nice that looks? And on to adventure you go. And there it is.